I was proud of my living situation. At 28 years old, I had a good job as a software developer, paid reasonable rent to my parents, and was steadily saving for a down payment on my own house. After 3 years of disciplined saving, I had bought my Toyota Camry, a symbol of my hard work. Then one evening my father delivered a bombshell, raising my rent by 80%, saying, "Sell your car, your brother's loan will not pay itself." I stood there, shocked, replying, "Funny, he gets the loan, I get the bill." Before continuing this story, let me know where you are watching from and hit subscribe to join our journey together. I should probably back up and give you some context about my situation. I am Randy, a 28-year-old software developer at a promising startup in suburban Minnesota. For the past few years, I've been living in my childhood home, paying what I thought was a fair rent of $600 monthly to my parents. This arrangement seemed perfect, allowing me to build my savings while enjoying the comfort of familiar surroundings. My parents, Frank and Laura, had always been supportive of my goals. Dad, 58, worked as a construction manager, while Mom, 56, was a part-time elementary school aide. We had a comfortable, middle-class life, nothing extravagant, but stable. My younger brother, Trevor, 21, had just started college, pursuing a business degree with big dreams of corporate success. Our family dynamic had always been positive. Every Sunday we would gather for dinner, engaging in animated discussions about everything from politics to sports. I often found myself mediating between Dad's traditional viewpoints and Trevor's more progressive ideas. Mom would watch with a smile, occasionally stepping in when things got too heated. There was a subtle favoritism toward Trevor, the baby of the family, but I never felt unloved. Extended family gatherings were frequent, and I enjoyed a reputation as the responsible one. Aunts and uncles would comment on my sensible approach to finances, especially my decision to stay home while saving for property. I took pride in this recognition, seeing it as validation of my life choices. My blue 2018 Toyota Camry was my prized possession. After 3 years of putting aside money from every paycheck, I had purchased it outright, no loans or financial assistance. The car represented independence and achievement, tangible proof that my strategy was working. I kept it immaculately clean and performed regular maintenance, often spending weekend mornings working on it with Dad in the driveway. These were bonding moments, conversations flowing easily between us as we changed oil or checked tire pressure. On weekends, Dad and I had a routine of tackling house maintenance projects together. From fixing leaky faucets to painting the garage, we worked side by side, sharing knowledge and stories. Mom would bring us lemonade on hot days, and Trevor would occasionally join, though he preferred indoor activities. These moments strengthened our connection, creating memories I treasured. The first signs of change began when Trevor was accepted to Kingston University, an expensive private college known for its business program. During our family meeting to discuss finances, Trevor was passionate about the opportunities this education would provide. "The networking alone is worth the tuition," he insisted, eyes bright with excitement. "Most graduates land 6-figure jobs within 3 years." I noticed the concern in Dad's eyes as he reviewed the costs, but Trevor had always been persuasive. By the end of the evening, my parents had decided to co-sign substantial loans to fund his education. I expressed mild concern about the financial burden, but was assured everything was under control. "We have been planning for college expenses," Mom said, though I noticed she avoided specifics about how those plans had materialized. Around that time, economic conditions began affecting Dad's construction company. Projects were delayed or canceled, reducing his usual overtime hours. Mom's school also cut back her hours due to budget constraints. The atmosphere at home subtly shifted, conversations about money becoming more frequent and tense. Wanting to help, I offered to increase my rent temporarily. "I can pitch in more until things stabilize," I suggested one evening after dinner. Dad immediately dismissed the idea. "We are fine, Randy. Focus on your savings goal." His pride would not allow him to accept what might have seemed like charity from his son. I respected this, though in hindsight, perhaps this moment was a missed opportunity for honest financial discussion. The warning signs continued to accumulate. Dad began making comments about my car maintenance expenses, suggesting I was spending too much on premium oil or unnecessary parts. Mom started asking me to contribute more to groceries, though no formal agreement was made. Meanwhile, Trevor received a new laptop for college, the latest model with all the accessories. One night, I overheard my parents arguing about money in their bedroom, their voices just audible through the walls. "We cannot keep doing this," Mom whispered urgently. "The interest alone is killing us." "What choice do we have?" Dad responded. "We made a commitment." I pretended not to hear when we passed in the hallway the next morning, but the worry stayed with me. Our weekend maintenance routine gradually disappeared as Dad picked up extra shifts at work. Family dinners became less frequent, with everyone eating at different times due to conflicting schedules. When I suggested Trevor find a part-time campus job to help with expenses, the idea was quickly dismissed. "He needs to focus on his studies," Mom insisted. Working would distract from his grades. I recalled my own college years balancing classes with 20 hours weekly at the campus bookstore, but kept this observation to myself. A colleague at work, Anthony, noticed my preoccupation and invited me for coffee. After sharing my concerns, he offered perspective that should have been a warning. "Family and finances are a dangerous mix," he said. "Make sure you are not being taken advantage of." I defended my parents, assuring him they would never exploit me. His knowing look should have given me pause, but loyalty runs deep. The confrontation that changed everything happened on a Sunday evening in early October. Dad called me into his home office, a small converted bedroom, where he handled bills and household management. The room felt smaller than usual, tension thick in the air. "Randy, we need to discuss your living arrangements." He began shuffling papers on his desk without meeting my eyes. Small talk about work and weather preceded the bombshell. When it came, there was no preparation, just a statement of fact. "Starting next month, your rent will be $1,080. The number hit me like a physical blow. An 80% increase, with no warning or explanation. Before I could formulate a response, he continued. "Trevor's tuition payment is due, and the interest rates on his loans increased. We all need to make sacrifices." I struggled to keep my voice steady. "That is almost double what I am paying now." "Why such a dramatic increase?" Dad finally looked up, his expression hardened in a way I had never seen directed at me before. "You have a good job. You can afford it." That was when he delivered the line that would replay in my mind for months. "Sell your car, your brother's loan will not pay itself." My car, the symbol of my independence and achievement, casually suggested as a sacrifice for Trevor's education. I felt something fundamental shift between us in that moment. "Funny he gets the loan. I get the bill." The words left my mouth before I could censor them. Dad's face flushed. "This is not up for discussion. Family supports family." Mom stood silently in the doorway, her expression conflicted but offering no intervention. From the next room came the sound of Trevor's phone, chiming with text messages, his laughter. A stark contrast to the tension in the office. That night, sleep eluded me. I sat at my desk with a calculator and budget spreadsheet, running numbers until my eyes burned. The new rent would consume over 40% of my monthly income after taxes. My savings progress would stall completely, possibly even reverse, if any unexpected expenses arose. Morning arrived with the scent of coffee. Mom was in the kitchen when I entered, her movements careful as she placed a mug before me. "Dad was not trying to be harsh," she offered quietly. "We are just in a difficult position. And Trevor, what sacrifices is he making?" I asked, immediately regretting the bitterness in my tone. Mom's gaze dropped. "He is young. There will be time for him to contribute later." As if summoned by our conversation, Trevor wandered into the kitchen, yawning and reaching for the coffee pot. "Anyone want to spot me for spring break? Thinking about Daytona with the business club?" The casual request, completely disconnected from the financial reality affecting the household, left me speechless. I excused myself, coffee untouched, and left for work earlier than necessary. My best friend Marcus noticed my distraction during our lunch break and pressed for details. When I explained the situation, his outrage matched what I could not express. "That is exploitation, pure and simple," he declared. "You should move out immediately. Stay with me until you find a place." The offer was tempting, but pride held me back. "I need to handle this myself. But thanks." My work performance suffered as apartment listings and budget calculations occupied my thoughts. During a meeting, my team lead, Sarah, pulled me aside. "Everything okay, Randy? You seemed a million miles away during the client presentation." I assured her it was temporary stress, nothing that would affect my work long term. Her understanding nod was a small comfort in an increasingly uncomfortable situation. That evening, I attempted to discuss the rent increase with Dad again, approaching him as he watched television. "Can we talk about a more gradual increase? Maybe something we can both work with." He barely looked away from the screen. "The number is the number, Randy. Adults pay their way in the world." The dismissal stung worse than anger might have. I retreated to my room and spent the evening researching apartment costs in the area, finding little that would not completely derail my financial goals. The following Sunday dinner was an exercise in strained politeness. Trevor dominated conversation with stories from campus, oblivious to the tension between Dad and me. Mom attempted normalcy, asking about my work and friends, while Dad communicated primarily through pointed sighs and minimal responses. When Trevor complained about cafeteria food, Dad immediately offered to increase his meal plan allowance. "Whatever you need, son. Your education is the priority." The contrast to my treatment was impossible to ignore. I caught Mom's apologetic glance but found little comfort in it. My Uncle Jim visited that week, immediately sensing the atmosphere. After dinner, he invited me for a walk, and away from the house he spoke frankly. "Something is off with Frank. He has always been proud, but this is different." When I explained the situation, Uncle Jim shook his head. "Stand your ground, Randy. Respect goes both ways, even with parents." The pressure continued to mount. When the increased rent took effect, my carefully built savings buffer began to shrink. Car insurance renewal coincided with the change, adding additional financial strain. At work, rumors of restructuring created uncertainty about job security. I implemented strict austerity measures, bringing lunch from home, canceling streaming subscriptions, and declining social invitations that involved spending money. Physical symptoms of stress manifested insomnia, leaving dark circles under my eyes, tension, headaches, becoming a daily companion. One evening I found Mom alone in the kitchen and attempted to understand the family's financial situation better. Is the increase really necessary? Are things that tight? Her response revealed her own powerlessness. "Your father handles the finances. He says this is what we need." Trevor remained untouched by the household stress, complaining about cafeteria food while I ate ramen to stretch my budget. When he received a care package full of snacks and gift cards from Mom, the inequity of our situations became painfully clear. The breaking point came during a family barbecue celebrating Trevor's successful first semester. Relatives gathered in our backyard, admiring his grades and asking about his college experience. Mom and Dad had given him a new tablet as a reward, an expense that seemed at odds with the financial crisis, justifying my rent increase. I was assigned grill duty, standing apart from the celebration, flipping burgers, while conversation and laughter flowed without me. From this position, I overheard Dad speaking to Uncle Jim near the cooler of drinks. "Trevor's tuition payments are killing us, but Randy's increased rent helps cover the gap," he said, unaware. I could hear every word. "He can contribute more since he lives here anyway. Better than throwing money away on an apartment." The realization that my rent was directly funding Trevor's education, contrary to years of being told to focus on my savings, felt like betrayal. My contribution was not an unfortunate necessity, but a calculated redistribution of resources. The final straw came moments later, when Trevor loudly announced his plans for spring break in Florida, a trip that would cost thousands. Dad clapped him on the shoulder with approval while I stood alone at the grill, invisible except as a source of income. Something crystallized in that moment, a clarity about my position in the family dynamic that could not be ignored or rationalized away. I finished cooking in silence, served the food, and excused myself early, claiming a headache. That evening I drove aimlessly, processing my emotions and considering options. Eventually, I found myself in the parking lot of Westview Apartments, where Marcus lived. The complex was modest but well-maintained, with rent rates I had previously dismissed as too expensive for my saving goals. On impulse, I entered the leasing office just before closing. The agent, a woman named Diane, provided information about available units. We have a one-bedroom opening next month. $950, plus utilities. First and last month's rent as deposit. The figure was less than my new rent at home, though it would mean additional costs for utilities and household necessities. Still, for the first time in weeks, I felt a sense of possibility. The next day, I took an extended lunch break to view the apartment. It was smaller than my childhood bedroom, but represented something infinitely more valuable: independence. "I will take it," I told Diane, signing the lease with mixed emotions: excitement for a new chapter, tempered by sadness for what was ending. Marcus was supportive when I shared my decision. "About time you stood up for yourself. Need help moving." His friendship was a bright spot in the difficult situation, a reminder that family is sometimes chosen rather than born. Mentally preparing for the announcement required careful consideration. I wanted to be clear and firm, without burning bridges unnecessarily. The perfect opportunity presented itself when Trevor was inducted into his business school's honors society. The family prepared for an important celebration dinner at Riverside Steakhouse, Trevor's favorite restaurant. I was expected to take time off work to attend a requirement presented without consideration for my schedule or preferences. At the restaurant, Dad gave a speech praising Trevor's academic accomplishments and promising future. "This is just the beginning of great things," he declared, raising his glass. "We will continue to support your dreams however necessary." The irony was not lost on me as family members nodded in agreement, unaware of exactly how that support was being financed. As conversation turned to Trevor's summer internship possibilities, and Dad mentioned upcoming house renovations to create a dedicated study space for Trevor's return during breaks, I knew the moment had arrived. I excused myself, briefly retrieving an envelope from my car. Upon returning to the table, I waited for a natural pause in conversation. "I have an announcement too," I said, voice steady despite my racing heart. "And a gift for Trevor's special day." Curious eyes turned to me as I placed the envelope on the table. Trevor reached for it with a smile, expecting perhaps a gift card or congratulatory note. Instead, he found a printed copy of my new lease agreement, with a note attached: 30 days notice. "What is this?" Dad demanded, reaching for the paper. "My notice. I am moving out in 30 days. I replied, maintaining eye contact. Funny how this works. He gets the loan. I get the bill. Not anymore. The silence that followed was absolute. Mom's hand flew to her mouth, eyes wide with shock. Trevor looked confused, reading the document with growing understanding. Dad's face flushed dark red, but before he could speak, I continued. "I wish Trevor every success, but I will not sell my car or sacrifice my future to finance his education. That was never our agreement." Dad attempted to regain control of the situation. "This is not the time or place for this discussion." It is exactly the time, I countered. "Everyone should understand why I will not be at family dinners for a while." The rest of the meal passed in awkward conversation, relatives attempting to navigate the sudden tension. I maintained composure, answering questions about my new apartment with measured enthusiasm. When dinner concluded, I drove home separately, preparing for the confrontation I knew would follow. The immediate aftermath was as difficult as expected. Dad attempted to intimidate me into changing my mind, alternating between anger and appeals to family obligation. "After everything we have done for you," he said that evening, following me to my room, "this is how you repay us." "I have paid rent for 3 years," I reminded him. "I have contributed to this household in every way. Ask of me until the ask became unreasonable." Later that night, Mom knocked softly on my door, eyes red from crying. "Please reconsider, Randy. Your father is just trying to manage a difficult situation." Her plea was genuine, and I felt a pang of guilt. "I love you, Mom, but I cannot be the solution to a problem I did not create. Trevor's reaction was the most surprising. He appeared in my doorway the following evening, confusion evident in his expression. Are you really leaving because of me? Because of my school loans? The realization that he had been kept ignorant of the financial arrangements was both vindicating and saddening. Not because of you, Trevor. Because of how the situation was handled. In the days that followed, extended family members called seeking explanations. Most were sympathetic, once they understood the circumstances, though a few echoed Dad's sentiment about family obligation. Uncle Jim sent a text message that brought unexpected comfort. Proud of you for standing up for yourself. That took courage. Friends from work rallied around me. Marcus organizing a moving crew, Sarah offering furniture she no longer needed. Their support reinforced that my decision, while painful, was necessary. Moving day arrived with a mixture of emotions. 3 friends with pickup trucks helped transport my modest belongings to the new apartment. Dad remained in his workshop, refusing to acknowledge my departure, while Mom hovered, anxiously pressing containers of homemade food into my hands. Call me when you are settled, she whispered, hugging me tightly before I left. Trevor helped carry boxes, an awkward olive branch I accepted with quiet gratitude. My apartment was small, but mine. That first night alone, surrounded by unpacked boxes and sitting on a second-hand couch, I experienced both freedom and loneliness in equal measure. The financial reality was daunting. Every expense now solely my responsibility, but the psychological weight lifted was worth the trade. The weeks that followed established new patterns. I created budgets for groceries, utilities, and household supplies. Learning to cook beyond basics became both necessity and hobby. The commute to work was longer, but offered time to process thoughts through podcasts and music. Mom began visiting after the second week, bringing occasional meals and updates about home. Her relationship with me existed now in a separate sphere from Dad's anger, a complexity she navigated with quiet determination. He will come around, she assured me. Though we both knew reconciliation would require significant shifts in perspective, Trevor's surprise visit a month after I moved revealed growing awareness of family dynamics. He sat awkwardly on my couch, looking around the modest space. Dad never told me my tuition was coming from your rent, he admitted. I thought they had college savings or something. The conversation that followed was difficult but necessary. Trevor learning for the first time about financial realities his parents had shielded him from. Before leaving, he made an unexpected offer. I applied for a campus job in the business office. It is not much, but it should cover my books next semester. This small step toward responsibility felt like the first brick in rebuilding our relationship as adult brothers, rather than competitors for parental resources. Uncle Jim's diplomatic efforts eventually created space for conversation with Dad. We met for coffee at a neutral location, the local diner, where we had once shared breakfast after fishing trips. You blindsided me, he said immediately. Defensiveness, evident in his posture. You blindsided me with an 80% rent increase, I countered. We both could have handled things better. The conversation was not a complete reconciliation, but it opened channels for communication that had been closed by hurt and pride. Dad struggled to admit any wrongdoing, but acknowledged that expectations should have been discussed more clearly. As Thanksgiving approached, tentative plans formed for a family meal. The invitation came from Mom, but Dad's gruff addition of, "Your apartment is too small for hosting anyway," suggested his willingness to move forward, however awkwardly. Setting clear boundaries about financial matters became non-negotiable in our new relationship dynamic. When Trevor mentioned a summer study abroad program, I explicitly stated my position. That sounds like a great opportunity, but to be clear, my finances are separate from your education expenses. The statement was met with nods, rather than arguments, a small but significant acknowledgement of new terms. 6 months after moving out, I took time to reflect on the decision and its consequences. My savings had stabilized, though progress toward a house down payment was slower than before. Career advancement had come unexpectedly, focused energy at work, resulting in a promotion that partially offset increased living expenses. New friendships formed through apartment neighbors and community activities expanded my social circle beyond family connections. Dating, which had seemed impractical while living with parents, became part of my life again. My relationship with money transformed each dollar, representing not just purchasing power, but independence and self-determination. The careful stewardship of resources became not just practical necessity, but philosophical choice. Family relationships continued their gradual healing. Sunday dinners resumed on a monthly rather than weekly basis, the frequency allowing space for new routines while maintaining connections. Trevor and I developed a relationship independent of our parents meeting for occasional meals, where he sought advice about classes and internships. Most surprisingly, I found myself helping Trevor find part-time work using connections from my own college years to open doors for interviews. His gratitude was genuine, our relationship evolving into something more balanced than before. The final unexpected development came when Trevor approached me about financial literacy. "Can you help me understand how loans and interest actually work? Dad just says not to worry about it." The irony of this request was not lost on me, but I recognized the opportunity to break cycles of financial secrecy. Our weekend sessions reviewing principles of budgeting and debt management became a new form of brotherhood. Looking back on the challenging year, I recognize that family obligations and personal boundaries exist in constant tension. The line between selfishness and self-care is rarely clear, particularly when intertwined with love and history. Yet I have no regrets about drawing that line when necessary. My car, the Toyota Camry that sparked the initial conflict, remains with me a daily reminder that independence sometimes requires difficult choices. When Dad recently complimented its continued good condition, the comment felt like the beginning of a new understanding between us. Have you ever had to make a tough choice between family expectations and your own financial well-being? Share your experience in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, please hit the like button and subscribe to hear more real-life experiences. Your support means everything as we navigate these complex human journeys together. Remember, setting boundaries is not selfish. It is an act of self-respect. Thank you for listening, and I wish you strength in your own difficult conversation.